And good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi, my name is Ann McNeil, and welcome to our Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live. Today, we're discussing the principle from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We are discussing the principle of autosuggestion. And if you know anything about suggestion and self-suggestion, well, today is your day to learn a little bit more about that principle. Napoleon Hill shares with us this, this, this principle of a medium for influencing the subconscious mind. And today we're going to learn a lot more about this particular medium from our special guest. But let's talk about the principle a little bit first. I enjoy reading and rereading also this Emil Coué's concept of autosuggestion, where he shares how we can influence our subconscious mind through repetition of affirmations, affirming, for example, that every day in every way I am getting better and better. But this principle is also considered to be self-administered stimuli. That comment, that affirmation, that prayer, or like we're going to hear today, some other activities that you can do to influence your subconscious mind. And remember that no thought, whether it's good nor bad, because it is said that no thought is either good nor bad, it is our thinking that makes it so. But none of these thoughts can enter your subconscious mind without the aid of this principle called autosuggestion. And today we have a very special guest that's going to share with us a little bit about this principle. And that's none other than Jodeen Bergstrom. Good morning, Jodeen. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Anne. It's a beautiful day, and I'm so excited to be here. I look forward to diving into auto-suggestion because it's kind of one of my wheelhouses.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's bring you on the screen so everybody else can see you. Listen, we've been talking about this principle of autosuggestion, and I know you have an interesting history, if you will. So if you could take us back just a little bit, go back to that very beginning of your life where you, first of all, we're going to talk about what was your first introduction to the book. But before we get to the book, take us back to where you began to realize, maybe early part of your life, that there is such a thing called autosuggestion, or how you can influence your mindset.
Definitely. I think, I grew up on a farm, so I spent a lot of time in a tractor driving around, bored to death. And back then, bad radios, like we didn't have anything like we have today. So, you really got to really just think and study and kind of learn off of the land. So I think a lot of those hours, in the tractor, just realizing that there's a higher spirit, there's something more out there. It's not just us. So I think that was the very beginning. And I'll go a little bit later on and, how I got the book that we're speaking about. But I think just, probably I was on a tractor at the age of 5. So I would say probably around 7 to 10 years old is really when I started, understanding that, there was more to life than, just, going to school and realizing that higher power was there. So.
All right, now you've brought us up to the book. Let's go ahead and go there. So now, what was your first introduction to this book?
Well, you can see I have an older version of Think and Grow Rich, and I think I've had almost all of them. But about 35 plus years ago, my mentor, I was in Breckenridge, Colorado. I had a flower shop, and we were delivering some flowers. And this one couple had a carousel horse in their foyer. And my ex-husband, when he delivered the flowers, he's like, you have to, because they were, carousels were and they still are, just dear to my heart. And he's like, you've got to see this house. And so we ended up having to deliver more flowers out there. So the second batch I took out there, and they were in Amway or Quick Star. and they introduced us to network marketing. But more importantly, and I'm so grateful for Ken and Miss Pat, because they introduced me to personal development. So Ken handed me the book Think and Grow Rich and said, this is the business Bible, learn it in and out, and took that to heart and applied it not only to my businesses, but also to, you know, we raised 5 daughters together, and applied it in the you know, within our family nucleus as well as in business. So that was my beginning of carousel horses and and skiing in Breckenridge.
So are you sharing that? So you were in the network marketing business called Amway then?
Yep. Back
Uh,
then it was called
Okay, now
Amway.
how many years?
So I was in Amway about 10 years.
Now, I asked that question because I was in Amway also and ended up going emerald in the business. And
Awesome.
that, yes, and I do believe that all of the network marketing businesses, they teach us all how to grow the person, and the person grows the business. And
Exactly.
oftentimes we get confused in business. As a small business, we really want to have a phenomenal business, not realizing we are the business.
Exactly.
We are the business. So can you share with us maybe some other books that, because I do know, you know, we had the books, the tapes, the system, right?
Were you under Dexter?
Dexter Yeager, yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
Ken and Pat were sponsored by Dexter, so we were very close, and so we got to get on a lot of stages. In fact, they introduced me to John Maxwell, and I'm a certified John Maxwell speaker or trainer because of that, and shook hands with Les Brown, and you know, all the amazing people that, you know, you got to have on the stages. But I'm so grateful because without that, I know I would not have been as successful in my life without having that, because I grew up on a farm. Like I said, I knew there was something else out there, but you know, I'm 42 miles from the Canadian border and 82 miles to the closest Starbucks drive-through. So, you know, there's not a lot around here, right? And so, you know, being able to get exposed to all of the books. So, you know, I've read them all, and you know, we had a personal development university in our van. We had an APV Luna van, and the girls used to just roll their eyes because it was one personal development to one Barney. You know, if you remember back in the day, Barney was the choice. And so we would switch out back and forth. And you know, I have 5 very successful daughters. They understand the mindset. They're very sufficient, and also very successful. And you know, I attribute to that beginning base of understanding, you know, that because it's not taught in our school system, and it's definitely not taught in college. And you know, coming out of college, I have a degree in flower shop and greenhouse management, and if it wasn't for Ken and Miss Pat, like there's no way I would have been as successful in my business as owning a flower shop, if it wasn't for, you know, learning all the success principles that they really, you know, were able to help me grow and pass on to my children.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because what I believe happens to many of us, we don't realize that the early beginnings of what we're learning, our children are also learning. What we're reading, our children are also reading. And if we are not careful, we will find that we are impacting the lives of many, 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 and I cannot say it enough, many individuals. And so what happens then with that is that once we become conscious, and that's what this whole principle is about, of auto-suggestion, you know, the affirmations we use, whether it's every day and every way, I'm getting better and better, whether it is our Father's prayer, whether it is your own affirmation, regardless of whatever it is, good nor bad, we get to choose how we internalize that. So let's go back now to your early beginnings in terms of So from the tractor to the Amway business to now, can you share with us, how do you now, right now, use this principle of auto-suggestion in your business and also in your life?
Definitely. So I'm going to take you back a little bit further. About 17 years ago, I moved back to my hometown. The country was kind of going through turmoil, and I got a call from a family member, and they said, "Hey, the oil boom is coming back. Get up here." And so at the time, we were actually in Abilene, Kansas. So we came back to North Dakota, and I started up a restaurant, and there again, applied the success principles to that, did very, very well with that. And, we moved about 900 pounds of hamburger a week in the restaurant, which is equivalent to 2.5 cows. And it was an old A&W root beer stand. And so we fed, if you ever heard of Rockin' the Bakken on the news, Tioga is my hometown, and that's the oil capital of North Dakota, which for a brief time I worked as an economic developer. And I actually got that copyrighted for our city, because up until then, even though we have the discovery well, they hadn't copyrighted that yet. So just that whole business sense, bringing that back, got that for them. We were doing the restaurant, doing really well. And about 7 years into it, the valve got turned off for the oil. And so so that was about 7 years ago. And then both of my parents died within 3 months of each other. And then 6 months later, we closed down the restaurant because we were just paying purveyors and payroll. And that's when I really got exposed to digital marketing and coming online and doing all that. But then 8 months later, my ex-husband of 33 years walked out. And so all that trauma was just layer after layer after layer after layer. And I got in a really dark place. Not brushing this off. If you ever have suicidal thoughts, make sure you reach out to people. But, death was looking inviting. And I heard the words of my mom, which her parting words to me were, "Go out and be so successful that you piss them off even more." And so with that, I realized I needed to do something because I was in the wrong place. And so I, grabbed Think and Grow Rich, because that's always been, I've always read it 2 or 3 times a year, grabbed onto that, and just really realized that I had a pretty toxic subconscious mind going on. And so the way that I pulled myself out of that was through auto-suggestion. I got onto YouTube, created affirmations, and started playing those at night to ensure that, that subconscious mind was getting reprogrammed. And then just during the days, getting mantras and going through. And about that time too, the COVID started coming in. And Russell Brunson had sent me, if you know him, he's the co-founder of ClickFunnels. He sent me an invite to Clubhouse, which is an auto-only app. And so I got on there. And when I got on there, I made the decision I was going to find my voice. And through that, I was a co-host for a room called How to Run $1 Million Business. And so from 8 in the morning until about 11 at night, I would co-host this room. And we had the likes of Damon John was in there, Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, Master Sri Akashana. If you're familiar with John Asraf, Sharon Lecter, all of those guys were in those rooms. And so I ended up hosting rooms for them and really found my voice, and then went on to do masterminds on Think and Grow Rich. We put thousands of people through it, ended up doing a paid part of it, and really just dove into the success principles. And but auto-suggestion is how I pulled myself out of that dark age and really started to reprogram and help me understand that, yeah, life was happening, but it was happening for me and not to me. And that's why, for me, when you noted that this session was on AutoSuggestion. The universe, there's no accidents.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, how powerful. And we have lots of people listening in on YouTube, and we just want to give them all a shout out. So Doretha, Smitty, Meta, Colette, Misty, again, we have a Smitty and a Misty. Listen, everybody, if you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in the chat, and we will definitely do our very best to address them. And also, we want to remind everybody, please remember to comment, like, and share the podcast, because we do know that Jodeen is speaking to somebody in particular. I know you're speaking to me, because it's just another confirmation about the similarities of our beginning and how we're doing this work based upon our experiences. And we have to go through, if you will, to go through, because the blessing in all of our stories are the challenges.
Yep.
And I remember one of the things that I remember from being in the Amway business myself for many, many years, to go to that level of emerald, and you know the levels, diamond and all of those things. But I always remember having struggles, challenges, broken, but these principles, the process, the people, the community is what helped to pull me through that. And so to hear you talk about your story, your challenges and your struggles, and having that similarity, I really believe that we're speaking to people who are going through and they're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? So now let's go there about what do we do next, right? Can you share with us some thoughts of how you actually use your auto suggestion? What does that look like for you?
Definitely. I think the big thing too, when you're looking at the auto suggestion, it's the subconscious mind. And, everything that you have in your world right now is a result of, and some statistics and science have said, as much as 98% is result of the subconscious mind. So from anywhere from 80 to 98% is all because of your subconscious mind. And the one thing that I realized when I was working on helping the people through the mastermind, I just felt like I'd get them to this roadblock and I just couldn't get them past. So I actually went in and got my certification on NLP and hypnosis so that I could go deeper into and understand. And Joe Dispenza, I listened to a lot of him and just wanted to really be able to help people, understand how we could get, through to that subconscious mind and the auto suggestion. And the big thing is you can have that repetition and you can say those mantras, but if you don't feel it with the energy of the emotion, you are not going to see that result that you truly desire. So, teaching people how to really go deep into the emotions and feel it. And one of the things I can, I always reference back is like, how do you know it's working, right? And I had delivered some flowers to this lady in a building. And I just noted to her, I was like, hey, if you ever, want to move out, I didn't know if she owned it or whatnot, because she was a real estate agent. I said, I would love to rent this building. She goes, oh, we're going to buy it. And I went, oh, okay, great. Well, if it ever comes available, I'd still be interested in it. So as I drove away, half a block down the road, I made the decision that I was going to be in that building. That building was ideal for me because there was a living quarters upstairs. We had small children at the time, and it was just getting harder and harder to run a small business. So I made the decision, and I can tell you the emotion and everything that, I just felt it. And a week later, I drove by and I saw a for rent sign in that building. And I turned around, grabbed the number and called it. And it was a different real estate agent. And he goes, yeah, it just became available. And I said, I'll take it. But I fueled it, that auto suggestion. I made that decision that I owned that building and I was going to be in there. And then we were there for another 4 years. And so, but it was that energy and that strong emotion of already seeing myself in that building and, taking that auto suggestion and just living, it's kind of, you hear that phrase and some people are for it and some people aren't. Fake it until you make it. But you have to have that emotion, because just like I said, saying the mantras and whatnot, it doesn't fuel that. And another part I was going to note too, Christy Marie Sheldon, she does a lot more of the spiritual part of it, and hers is intuition. And I used to have a very, very strong intuition, and I noticed after my valley, I wasn't seeing that intuition. And I think this is really important for people to understand. And so I got on a webinar with her, and I just said, hey, Christy, can you lose your intuition? It was the only question. I just typed it in there. And she came back on and she goes, Jodeen, I see you asked a question. And, some of those webinars, you don't know if they're live or recorded. I'm one of the only Jodeens out there. So first of all, I knew she was talking to me and I knew it was live. And she said, that's a great question. She said, you can't lose your intuition, but you can get to a point where you're not hearing it because you're angry with God. And I was like, that's not me. Like, I'm not angry at God, and I kind of listened and she said a few things. And then after she got done, and I always say, and one of the things that Ken taught me is pigs don't know pigs stink, right? That was like one of his famous words. And we don't know when we're in it, what's happening to us. And so after Christy said that, my farrier came up, and, he comes up about every 6 months from Oklahoma. And so he's been coming up about 6 years. And so he knows, what I was going through and whatnot. And I mentioned to him and I said, she said that I'm angry at God. And he goes, well, of course you are. I've seen that for the last 3 years. And I'm like, what? He goes, you're pissed as hell at him. I can see it. And I'm like, really? And so when he said that, I really had to just step back and go, well, maybe I am mad. Maybe I am mad that God took both of my parents, who are my biggest cheerleaders, away from me. Maybe I am mad that he closed my restaurant. Maybe I am mad at him because my ex-husband, which was a sign, David's first words to me were, will you marry me? And my first words to him were, not in your wildest dreams. Well, 33 years and 5 kids together, I thought it was a sign from God that he was the one I was supposed to marry, because after I said that to him, I got in my pickup and my thoughts were, that's the type of man I'm going to marry. But I heard the words from God or higher spirit, however you connect with it. And he said, that is the man you're going to marry. And a year and a half later, we were married. And so, I had to really work through that and understand I was kind of pissed off at God. And once I started having conversations about that and really diving deep on that and understanding that was, a blockage that I had in my subconscious mind, I was able to really open up. And then my intuition started coming through, and that gut feeling of knowing where I'm going and, how to listen to the auto suggestion and, create that. And more importantly, the auto suggestion started happening faster and better. So that manifestation of law of attraction. But had I not been on that webinar with Christy and she said that, even though I didn't believe her at the time, I was like, well, she's wrong, but come to find out she was very right. And I just thought it was interesting here, a farrier that comes up every 6, weeks, could see that I was angry at God, but I didn't see it myself. So
that is very, very empowering. Just as you were speaking, and I was thinking back to the affirmation about money in particular that Napoleon Hill shares. And do you find, or have you found in your past any blockage that may have existed surrounding money? Mm-hmm. And if so, were you able to use any kind of affirmation? For example, like he gives us in the book, a summary of instructions, of what we can use, but it does not mean it's the only one. Many people have different ones. Do you have something? First of all, were you ever blocked by negative affirmations surrounding money? And if so, how did you come through that in terms of using this principle of affirmations and auto-suggestion?
Definitely. I think, money, a lot of people, oh, it's the root of all evil. And it's only evil if you don't use it for good. And, our world is in a different place right now than it's ever been. And, finances, it's tight right now, and people are just, trying to survive. And because of our cost of living. So when I looked at my money blocks, because after my ex-husband, he left me financially devastated and with a lot of debt. And I really had to start looking at that like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to let this consume me and, let that be my story, or am I going to make a difference? And, I realized that through, a lot of the modalities and different, being exposed to Clubhouse, there was a spiritual side, there was, more of the business side. And so I got to get exposed to different modalities that I hadn't really, understood or knew that existed. So I started doing a lot of tapping. And I don't know if you know that, it's where you can actually open up the chakras, you can do in your head and your forehead and then your eyes, and then you move through that in your collarbone. And I can tell you, by doing the tapping and opening up those energy blocks, I was able to allow money come into my life. Clubhouse, I was able to monetize that. Crypto came into my world, and NFTs, and I was able to monetize that and really make an impact of I can survive on my own. Because when you have both your parents, you have your restaurant income taken away, and then your ex-husband leaves, like you've gotten everything wiped out from underneath you, and you feel like you have this whole world on top of you. Plus, I had 2 teenagers. I was trying to, keep them in horses and rodeo and all of that. And so by doing the mantras, by understanding the tapping, and that's one thing I'd like to offer the people listening. If you're interested and want to do a tapping session, I'm going to do a special one, and I'm actually going to do it. $1 million used to seem like a lot of money, but nowadays, if you're looking at retirement, or, if you're trying to get ahead, that $1 million is, kind of that threshold of what we really need to be able to retire, right? And so we're going to do an actual tapping on $1 million, and love to have as many people on. If you're not able to actually attend the live, it will be recorded. But I think it's an extra tool that you can put in your toolbox, because as we go through life, we have different stages and we need different tools. So I always try to, load up any of the people that I work with as many tools as we can, so that as you need them, you can grab them and you can use them. And, because there's not one success principle, right? Like you talk about, there's, we have the 13 success principles. And we use them and we need them at different times. So if anybody's interested in that, that's kind of one of the ways that I've tackled my, financial issues. And it's interesting because about a month ago, I just made a decision. I was really going to tap into, this $1 million, make a decision. And, in the book, it talks about you need to have the exact amount that you need, right? And if your goal isn't $1 million, you can change that. So don't feel like, well, I'm not, I don't need $1 million. You can put in that dollar amount, whatever you want, but specifically, we are going to be focusing on $1 million. And with that, it's been interesting because the money has been flowing in, where there was a time period, it was kind of stopped for a couple of months. And I was like, what's going on? And I had to really evaluate that and say, all right, what are my thoughts on here? And why am I, where did my programming get off? And I think it's real. I'm going to note this too, because I think somebody needs to hear this. If you're struggling financially and you are, you've been in the same place forever, I would encourage you to look at, can you move? Can you relocate? Because that change can elevate you in a way that you can't even understand. Because I moved away from my small town thinking, oh my gosh, I'm leaving everything. I'm moving 4 states away to Colorado, Breckenridge. I moved out there all on my own, right? But nobody knew me. I was forced to, make a name for myself. I was forced to create new friends. and you are able to kind of just, make a new life and create what you really want. Because it's interesting, when I moved back to North Dakota, I'm the youngest of 6 children. And I realized that when I came back here, I came back into that little stronghold of being the baby of the family. And I had a lot of hatred and jealousy, and I still do, from my siblings. And I had to combat that and say, that's not true. That's not who I am. And, I think that that's really important for people too, to think of, if you are struggling financially, can you kind of make that, that break and, recreate yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people and get that exact amount. So whatever, if you only need $500,000 or $20,000, whatever that dollar amount is, make sure it's exact, because the universe creates what we're asking for. It doesn't know if it's in the future, if it's now. But it's got to have the exact amount, because if you say, I just want a little bit more money, and you got $1 more in your checking account at the end of the month, you have more money.
Wow. Now that is empowering. That, yes, that is empowering. You mentioned about the 13 principles. Let's go ahead and
Number one is desire.
Let's do that.
Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step two is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step three is what we call AutoSuggestion. AutoSuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought, it's anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, Jodeen. Yes, we're back. I apologize for the briefness. I was, I was just trying to make sure it was working, right? But I want to go back to something you shared before going to the 13 principles about the money. And I know that Napoleon Hill has an affirmation that he suggests. And I just want to encourage all of our listeners, if you do have the book, depending upon what version you have, it doesn't matter which version you have. He gives in the book instructions on a sample that you can use, if you will, in terms of an affirmation that you can use. And so can you share with us, Jodeen, let's go back to what is it that you do? We talked about the tapping. So if you want to share with our audience, you can participate if you choose. If you don't, that's not a problem. I would suggest, this is the auto-suggestion principle, and this is another way that you can consider tapping, no pun intended, but tapping into your subconscious mind. So can you share with us, Jodeen, what is this tapping and how does that work?
Definitely. And let me pull up real quick here. And one of the things, just because we had talked about the books, I went and grabbed real quick while we were off. Look at how used and tattered these books are, but I thought I would share some memories and see if you remember
Yes,
any of these books coming up.
I think we had a book a month, right?
Exactly. Well, I think I was on book a week. But I just wanted to they were sitting over here and I just had to bring those up. So do you want to do a quick tapping? Because I can easily do.
Absolutely. Let's get the audience. So those of you who are listening on YouTube, put yes in the chat on YouTube if you'd like to know more. Yes. Okay. We have some yes in the chat.
Yay.
And absolutely. Absolutely. And I put yes in the chat. I put yes in my chat. Yes.
We got a double yes from you. Huh?
Yes.
And I just want you guys to understand too, people think, oh, well, tapping, that's kind of, hokey or, whatever, but it was used by the prophecies and, it's acupuncture without the needles, in essence, is what it truly is. And so what you're doing is we have different chakras in energy fields in our body. And so what's happening is we're actually addressing those energy fields and we're replacing them. So if you can see me, just kind of follow along. I'm going to start the session here. And I'll probably not do the last part because otherwise it would be about a 5-minute. Do you want to do 5 minutes or do you want to do just a shorter one? Because I can shorten it up.
We can do the shorter one. We have sufficient time. I left some time. Thank you. Okay.
And here, once again, I am going to end this one because having a definiteness of plan is very important. We are going to talk about the $1 million. And, if you feel that's too much, I want you to feel that energy. We're going to talk about as you're thinking of $1 million, really look into your body and feel your body. Where are those blockages are? And then that's where you can address where you have, blockages towards money. And the other thing I want you to do is we're going to take some deep breathing. One of the things John Assaraf taught me, if you've watched The Secret, he was in that. When you breathe in, it's best to breathe in through your nose. And then when you're breathing out, pretend like you're blowing out a straw. And when you do that, that actually fires both sides of the brain when you're blowing out through a straw. That's kind of the neuroscience of it. So if everybody would just kind of shake everything out, kind of like just shake your arms and kind of loosen up and readjust, because you're kind of probably just been sitting here and listening. So just kind of energy wise, loosen up a little bit and just take a deep breath, and you can close your eyes for this first part. And then if you want to open them up so that you can see what we're going to do in tapping. If you've not been exposed for tapping, I'm going to show you where to tap in. You want to do lightly. And usually I tell everybody to use like the 3 middle fingers. And we're going to, I'll just go real quick. We're going to tap on our head. We're going to tap on our forehead. And then we're going to tap on the side of our eye, underneath our eye, under our nose, under our chin, and then on your collarbone, and then in the spleen area. And if you're not familiar with the spleen area, for the women, it's kind of right where your bra comes, right underneath your arm. For the guys, just kind of put your arm across where your nipple is, and that will get the spleen area. And then we go back to the head. So welcome to this tapping session, and we're going to be focusing on attracting $1 million. Many of us have dreams that seem out of reach, but often because of our beliefs about it feels like it's not possible. Today, we're going to use tapping to address and clear those limiting beliefs and to open ourselves up to the abundance we deserve, whether it's a feeling of unworthiness, fear of success, or skepticism about the feasibility of such a goal. We'll tap on those barriers, replacing them with positive affirmation and a strong belief in your ability to achieve and attract abundance. Let's begin by acknowledging where we are, accepting ourselves, and being open to the journey of attracting $1 million into our lives. So here again, I'd like for you to take a deep breath in, hold it, and exhale. Now center yourself with the clearing intentions of attracting $1 million. Today, we're tapping into abundance, breaking down barriers, and setting our sights on financial prosperity. So I want you to first identify any limiting beliefs. So let's begin by acknowledging those limiting beliefs. And do you feel unworthy, doubtful, or fearful about attracting $1 million? Once again, we talked about this. I want you to notice those feelings and where might they be in your body? Where are you feeling them? So just understand and feel. And, if it's the first time you're doing it, you might not feel it. But if you keep practicing this, your body is going to be starting to speak to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out. We're going to do a karate chop. And what that is take one of your hands and hold it up. And then just right on the side of your hand here, like you can see here, just do a karate chop. And so what I want you to do is, as you are talking about this, or as I say this, you can repeat it back. I'm going to speak it, and then you can repeat it back. Or you can just listen too, if this is the first time and you're not as comfortable repeating it. So as we do this, doing the karate chop, even though I find it hard to believe, I can attract $1 million. I deeply and completely accept myself, and I'm open to all possibilities. Now we're going to start with the eyebrow. I am unsure I can attract this wealth. Side of the eye. All this doubt about my worthiness. Under the eye. The fear that $1 million is out of reach. Under the nose. Feeling undeserving of such abundance. Under the chin. Worried about the changes of change it would bring. On the collarbone, this skepticism about attracting $1 million. Under the arm, letting go of those financial limitations. Back to the eyebrow, I am worthy of attracting $1 million. Top of the head, I'm releasing all of my doubts and fears about money. Side of the eye, I am open to my financial abundance. Under the eye, I am capable of creating wealth. Under the nose, $1 million is within my reach. Under the chin, I deserve to live in abundance. On the collarbone, I am a magnet for financial prosperity. Under the arm, every day I'm closer to attracting $1 million. Top of the head, I embrace the abundance coming my way. Even though part of me doubts, I choose to practice regularly and believe deeply in my ability to attract $1 million. I commit to regular tapping. Side of the eye, sometimes I doubt this can happen. Under the eye, feeling hesitant about my consistency. Under the nose, worried if my belief is strong enough. Under the chin, the challenge of staying motivated. On the collarbone, embracing daily practice for my growth. Under the arm, Jasper, the challenge of staying motivated. Strengthening my belief in abundance. And top of the head, I am dedicated to this path of abundance. So now as you do that, you have now taken, I want you to take a deep breath in. And I want you to feel the commitment and belief and the serenity within you. And notice any shifts in your mindset or your feeling. And just remember that consistency in tapping and practicing and the steadfast belief in your goal is the key to manifestation.
Woohoo!
How's that feel?
All right, thank you so very much. And I want to thank everybody. We've had a lot of participation. Yes, I could see all of you in the spirit realm. Yes, I can. Practicing. And for those of you who will be listening in the future, please, I put the information in the chat. You can connect with Jodeen at jodeen.club. jodeen.club. And Jodeen, I'm feeling more relaxed. I do believe, and I was sharing before going to the break, Napoleon Hill gives us another sharing, if you will. He talks about this summary of instructions. And for those of you that have the book, and many of you that have masterminded with us, you know, he gives us some instructions also in addition to what we've just heard. And he gives you actually an affirmation you can use, and he asks you to repeat it twice a day. Very simply in the book, he says, similarly, you know, you want to go into a quiet place. And I would encourage and I would suggest that when you're doing your tapping, Jodeen, also, you want to be still, like a meditation, right? In a quiet place.
Yeah, interruptions. I apologize. I have a dog here, and usually I put him out because he can feel the energy in the emotions. And as soon as we started moving that energy, because he was upstairs sound asleep, and as soon as I started moving that energy, he came down here.
Wow.
And the other thing too, when you were talking about that place, you got to remember when there's two times when the subconscious mind is at its strongest point. And that is just before you fall asleep, when you go into that realm, that real solid sleeping mode. And then in the morning when you wake up, before the sunlight hits your eyes, that's when the two strongest points of that subconscious mind. That's why listening to those mantras or talking about those mantras before you go to bed. And that's the other thing too. If you do have an issue or you're trying to solve something, make sure your thoughts just before you go to bed, because just because your brain shuts off doesn't mean your subconscious mind shuts off. And a lot of times you will get those answers. And if you ever are woke, if you wake up between the hours of like 3 and 5, a lot of times that's your higher spirits talking to you and trying to get your attention. So I always encourage people to keep a notebook by their bed, because sometimes you'll get awakened in the middle of the night. And a lot of times success leaves clues, right? And so you'll get those answers, that intuition. And if you've got some finances and you're really stressing, maybe you got some bills that you need to pay, add those up. And then also write those checks out and understand that the universe is bringing that money to you, and it will supply the money to pay those bills. Or if you've got a vacation or whatever it is, I don't want to focus on, just the survival. Maybe it's a bigger thing. Maybe you want to buy a new home or a second home or whatever that goal is. Envision that you have it and understand that time period just before you go to bed and when you wake up in the morning, be thinking of that. Bring those thoughts into you, and then that intuition, all of the universe, all that magic and that manifestation is going to start happening if you can tap into those two time periods as well. So
awesome. Well, Jodeen, you have been a gift, a special gift today. I want to just remind all of our listeners that we're also hosting our annual meeting for the Think and Grow Rich. I call it an annual meeting for your life. It's not a conference. And so the first weekend in January, let's get the dates. The first weekend in January, we are going to be at the Embassy Suites in Boca Raton, Florida. And you can go to the internationalmasterminders.com to register. Just want to continue to remind us every single week, because this is for your life. And when you use what you're learning here today, the tapping, the instructions, the 13 principles, whatever works for you, it all depends on what you desire. And just as we've heard today from our special guest, she had a desire for a better quality of life, and she decided to take action. And from taking action, she reconnected, if you will, to this book, these 13 principles, and then they reconnected with her. And so whatever it is you're desiring, I believe that it is also desiring you, but you must take action. So go to the International Masterminders with an S.com and register to join us every January as we host an annual meeting for your life. And at that space and that place, and I still have my glasses off from tapping, but at that space and in that place, we help you to identify the areas that you would like to focus on for the upcoming year. We focus on the 10 areas of your life: spiritual, family, financial, health, education, your personal development, your business or your career, your recreation and creativity, or civic. And we encourage you to set goals for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and many of us are in our 40+ year. But all of this only matters if you have a desire. And like Jodeen said, it does not have to necessarily be money. It could be a vacation. It can be a better quality of life for your family members. It can be to take care of loved ones. Whatever it is that's most important to you, our desire is to continue to provide a safe space and a platform for you to be held accountable. So Jodeen, we're going to thank you for coming. And if you have any kind of program you're promoting, any courses that you're offering, like the tapping or whatever it is, if you would like to share that, please feel free to do that so people can connect with you.
Definitely. Well, first of all, I want to thank you. And I want to note to anybody that's listening, if you are not in a mastermind or if you're not grabbing onto these success principles, I just encourage you to, reach out to Anne and definitely get involved. And Boca Raton is beautiful. I love Boca Raton. And if and that's in January, right? And you're like, oh, I can't afford that. You can make all these excuses and you need to stop right there, because you can make that happen if you desire. And I strongly suggest that you put that in your, and I always say, when you dream big. If you think, oh my gosh, I can't go to Boca Raton. No way, you can make it happen. In fact, if you notice my house is 108 years old. It's a Sears and Roebuck house. I desired this home when I was in my teenage years. There was a house that I would drive by, and I'm not in that exact house, but I'm in one just like it. It took me 20 years, but I got the house. Like, I am in a Sears and Roebuck house, right? When we moved back to North Dakota, I got it. So, sometimes it's in God's plan. It's in the universe timing. We don't always get it right away, but I can tell you, if you focus on it and you put it out there and, get to Boca Raton, because if you can get around like-minded people, you're going to change your life and you're going to change the results of your legacy of, generations to come. And, Anne, if anybody wants to work with me, Jodeen.club, stay connected with that. Love to have as many people on the tapping. There will be a recording for that. I do go into a one-on-one breakthrough where we do go into those subconscious blocks. So like, if you are frustrated, if you're feeling like you're just, constantly coming up against, the same issues and the same problems. And, the other thing we got to understand too, in our DNA, our egg is actually first created in our grandmother, and that's scientific. I'm not making that up. So, for me, my grandparents lived through the dirty 30s, and so did my parents. And my grandparents were immigrants. So when you think of all that hardship, and money doesn't grow on trees, the depression, you don't deserve money, all of those things are carried in our DNA. And through that one-on-one breakthrough, we go through those subconscious blocks that we have. And sometimes those subconscious blocks can actually be generational. They can be within your parents or your grandparents. And so we go in and we clear that out through ECT, emotional change technique. And so if you really, want to go further on that, the one-on-one, I also have a mastermind on Think and Grow Rich, but, get with Anne, go with their program, because I just want to keep people making sure that they're in alignment. And because we're not encouraged to grow anymore, we've been, with COVID and all the things, we've been isolated. And so we got to get back. And a lot of my programs, I pull in the leadership development, because at the end of the day, if you're not a leader and you're not leading yourself, you're not going to be able to lead your people. And sometimes your people are just your family, right? Sometimes it's just yourself, whatever. You have to be that good leader. So encourage you guys to get in touch with Anne. She's a great program. I haven't been to Boca Raton, but I think I'm going to put that on my list. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share this for those who are interested. This is the information. It's January 3rd and 4th, 2025. And like I said, you can go to the internationalmasterminders.com to register. You can also find it here. Like, I pulled up Eventbrite while we're speaking, and you can go to Eventbrite and register there also. But whatever you do, we want to encourage you to definitely register. And that's January 3rd and 4th. Now, Jodeen, how would you like for people to connect with you? By going to Jodeen.club, or where would you suggest they go?
Yep. they can, Jodeen.club has all my socials. That's actually called Social Tap. And if there's any business people out there, I've got a lot of free PDFs. You're welcome to use it if you're trying to build a business. I've got a business plan on there. If you're looking for testimonials, I've got how to, ask for amazing testimonials, which is always good for your business. That's a free PDF. I have a YouTube channel that is meditations. So, even if you're not into doing, yep, there you can see right there. That's my part of my family, all of my family. The one at the end isn't, but I have 5 beautiful daughters and there's some grandchildren in there. But we talk about building the magnetic character at the end. So actually have today's program on there. And then you can see where it says register for the free tapping session. That's where if you want to do more on that tapping, please register for that. And then all of that is all free PDFs. You're welcome to grab that. Kind of gives a little bit more. And then Clubhouse, we did a book. We were on Amazon's bestseller. And then I was into crypto and NFTs, so you'll see some NFT stuff in there as well. But down at the bottom there, that one where it says amplify your social media. If you're a new business and you're really trying to start, kind of getting your stuff together, go to this Social Tap because it's like Linktree. But because I got this when I was in Clubhouse, I didn't realize this. Normally they charge like $60 for the whole year. So it's really, really cheap if you're trying to get a business going. And you can pay $5 a month. So they only charge me if you click on that link, it's only $48 a month. So you can be up and running in a business, and they have if you kind of scroll down there, it's really cool. And if you have any people, they have like 15 different templates. So you grab one of those templates and put your information in there, and you have a website, and you can be an authentic business within a day. It's crazy. And if you have any issues, reach out to me. Harold is the programmer that developed this. I met him on Clubhouse. He actually died of cancer, and so it's just his wife now. So I'm just trying to encourage people to link up, and it's like a Linktree, but it's better. See right there, only $5 a month, and you only get that if you use you only get that discount if you use my affiliate. I don't make money off of it. I just give it back to them because, especially with her, she's got a couple of little kids. He died of cancer in November. And but it's a great way, and it's a lot more user friendly than like Linktree. But for $48 for the year, you can be in business with your knowledge, or just even if you're trying to connect with social people, or whatever it is. But I think it's a great tool, and it's definitely underutilized. But I love it because it's been a great thing for me because I can put out all the different things that I offer, and you can turn it on and off. Like I probably should have turned off the crypto, but I think it's, with the Bitcoin going up, I think it's always a good investment to be diverse. And, that's one of the success principles too, that, Napoleon Hill, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And so we need to understand and be educated towards, making sure that we are profitable even in the down times.
So when they go to Jodeen.club, that is what they see. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that what she has just shared is so powerful, 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 powerful. So please connect with her. And Jodeen, I cannot say enough about how much I've learned. We do have 2 other co-hosts. They're out today. And so when they hear this, we will make sure that they know we did miss you. But again, we had a phenomenal podcast. And again, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping to build stronger, better lives and businesses. You can connect with me by going to 59925. Let me put that in the chat. So for those of you that's interested in getting Napoleon Hill's instructions, 59925. Yes, you can text Ann at that number, and we can, connect with you with these instructions. But also, one of the things I promised myself I would do is every week I would talk about promoting my book. And this is entitled How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. There we go. Let's put it over my face. But what want to thank each and every one of you that's listening. We could not do this, and it would not be possible without all of you joining us every Saturday, and continue to do that. Welcome back, Gloria Riley. We've missed you. Hi, Shannon, Meta, Doretha, everybody. Every single week, our desire is to bring you these principles, really as a check-in to whatever it is that you desire, and as a reminder. And I'm so glad to hear, Jodeen, we started off by talking about how we both started with this concept from the book, Think and Grow Rich. But what we had in common was the fact that we both were in the international, I want to call it international because I was in Japan a few months ago, and the Amway Corporation is one of the number one. It was just amazing. One of the number one businesses. Yes, one of the number one businesses in Japan. So we heard that all of that was coming, and it has given many of us the platform that we have today. But I just want to remind you, if you're just joining us, that we've been talking with Jodeen Bergstrom, and she's an accomplished entrepreneur, mid-lead coach. She is bringing over 30 years of experience to this podcast today, and we cannot thank you enough. I learned a lot about tapping. I'd always heard about it, but did not know what you shared today. And her journey in business and personal growth has backed her experiences in hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, which is NLP, and emotional change technique, which is ECT. She first encountered Think and Grow Rich over 35 years ago as a part of this phenomenal networking business called the Amway organization. And being a part of that also myself, I am another witness, if you will. So Jodeen, thank you so very much. And for all of you, thank you also for joining us. And we're going to remind all of you to continue to remember to think and grow rich.